Greetings and salutations. Happy Monday, everyone. If you're in the Northeast, like I am, hopefully you survived the incredible amount of snow we got. Let me explain something if you're not familiar with how things work. I don't know if it's like this in some of the other kind of older northeastern cities. I don't know about Boston. I don't know other places, but New York City, I'm in an apartment building, and apartment buildings really very few places have parking that comes with it. And my parking building actually does have parking. Some don't. Some just have, hey, you're mostly in Manhattan, especially you're in an apartment building. You may or may not have parking. In fact, you may have to be fairly lucky to be in a building that has parking. Just got to find somewhere to park it on the street. Now, my building has parking. However, in the munificence of their wisdom in whenever they built this thing a while back, I don't know exactly when, they built a parking structure alongside the building or incorporated into the building with only maybe room for a third of the amount of cars to the amount of apartments they had, which of course nowadays just seems like, why would you do that? Back in the day, maybe they just thought nobody will have cars. I don't know. So the end result is, when you fast forward from when the place was built to now, there is a 10-year plus waiting list for parking spots. My wife, in fact, put in herself on the list before we even met 15 some odd years ago. And this year was the first year we had our parking space that's covered in the building. So this was a wonderful weekend for us because we can enjoy the snow without having to dig ourselves out of it. No digging ourselves out of the disgusting piled snow that the snow plow that's clearing up the streets. You usually have to pick one side of the block because the snow plows, they're angled. So they don't just push it onto both sides. They push it on the one side. And you have to remember which magical side of the street is the one that the plow is angled away from as it's passing through. And that one, if you don't get it quick, you're going to end up with this crystalline, it should be in the monster manual, crystalline, disgusting, just morass that's incredibly hard to dig through, and it will be there till I don't even know when. It could be there till April if it stays cold enough. So it was an amazing weekend. We just got to enjoy the snow from our windows and then take my daughter out to the park, which is really nearby. We're lucky about that. Take her sledding, all that wonderful stuff, and didn't have to touch a shovel, which is awesome. Hey, Ian says, Atlanta got an incredible amount of snow this weekend. Felt like a whole inch. Now Nothing says, congrats on the parking space. Thank you very much. He says, slush elemental. It's worse than a slush elemental in a sense, because at least the slush, it just sloughs off down the road. It's disgusting, but it doesn't stick. This stuff, I'll take a picture of it because I know there are going to be some cars, because what happens is there's a certain amount of people, either they can't or they won't dig out their car. And then all this snow and stuff gets just stuck up against the car, and then it's going to freeze, and it's going to melt a little bit, then it's going to freeze, melt, freeze, and by the time you end up a little while from now, unless we get a sustained warm stretch, it's just going to be this really hardened crust. It's gross. Dungeon Master Masterclass says, yeah, same thing happens in Chicago. You can get your car frozen for months. Yeah. Yep. Frozen to the curb. Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, too, is there's a certain amount of leeway because we have alternate side parking here, which, if for, again, those who may not be informed, street sweepers, the street cleaners come twice a week. Basically, they do kind of one side of the street, then they do the other side of the street. So this means that you have to move your car. So ours are Thursday and Fridays. And when I've streamed on Thursday and Fridays, sometimes you will hear me. Maybe when it's coming down, it's a little bit loud, or close the window. And most of the times, I think I kind of hope nobody but me hears it. You can hear the street sweeper because I'm on the second floor, so I'm pretty close to the street, coming down the street. So you have to move your car. Now, when there's a lot of snow, they will usually say, okay, we're going to cancel alternate side parking for a while. But that only lasts so long. And then after that, I'm not sure what happens if you've decided, I'm not going to clear out the snow, so I'm not going to move out of the way. I don't know. I usually haven't tried to play chicken with the city in that way. We just end up dredging out the car. And plus, we generally want to move it. So, fun adventures. But this time, don't have to deal with it all. And I'm telling you, it is beautiful. I thought we should go back and continue our look at the original known docs. We are on to supplement 1. I have no idea how many supplements there are, by the way, and I have not pre-looking at this stuff. We've got supplement 1 here, which is about the world. So we're going to get a lot of the information that we kind of didn't get in the other ones, which were more about the mechanical things going on. Here we're going to get more of the setting, the geography of Imirrhos, as it's called. Brian Smith says, the plows here make short work of the snow once we get it. The piles in the parking lots are getting monstrous. Yeah, they tend to. There's a spot up. I'm right by the park, and there's an area by the park that the plows must come and just. I haven't seen them do it, but there's just a massive pile of snow. And that's another thing that gets really gross because it'll hang around till April or May, probably even, and it just gets disgusting. The plows themselves do fine work, at least in my neighborhood. I don't have any issues. Don't have any issues with that. But it's just fun to not have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. Didn't have to worry about finding, which side of the street do we need to be on so that it's easy going. And plus we got, I think 12 inches of snow, a foot, something like that, so there's probably no side was going to be really good. But at least we didn't get the worst stuff. But let's get to it. Imirrhos. And we got a wonderful black and white. Oh, I guess it wasn't black and white, but there is color here. Someone filled this in. Hex map. I think this must be half. No? I'm guessing this is half of it. I don't know why, but I'm just saying I guess I'll keep seeing. But we got I'm trying to look at these symbols. So I'm guessing. So I see kind of hill or mountains. I'm guessing. Okay, I see. And we also have a kind of a mountain and hill kind of symbol. I'm not sure what the thicker black lines are those. Is that ocean? Maybe that's ocean. So these kind of, is that water? I'm not sure. We basically have, it looks like we have one major continent here with, I don't know if I want to call it an inland. That's kind of an inland sea, but it's definitely an interesting geographical shape because as it goes, the body of the continent is on the west side of this map, and then to the east it breaks up into a really long sort of peninsular or kind of thing. And then inside there, it has some other sort of peninsula, and I think it's got some islands. So I kind of feel like I would definitely say in size-wise, I would call that quota an inner sea. Or would you, I don't know, because it does connect to the, if I'm reading this right, that the kind of south, particularly to the south, was it southeast, is more water? I think the interesting thing here is a lot of this, if they just left it blank, is kind of plains. We've got this almost an X of mountains here, the middle of the continent, then up in the north. We do see there are some forest things to the north. Maybe they just didn't fill it in all, because I see some rivers coming down. I seem to be obeying. Hey, for those of you who are map cartography sticklers, I don't see any rivers that are splitting. They all seem to be joining, going towards the sea from the high ground. But and I do see there's definitely some settlements or cities, or I don't know if they're capitals. I'm not sure what I think before we had the scale was something like 24 miles scale. I'm not seeing a specific scale here, so maybe that's it. It's big, but most of it, interestingly, is not filled in, even with forests. Only that northwestern edge kind of has some forested sections. And then, okay, so here we have, as I was anticipating, the other half. Kind of it doesn't look anything like that, but I sort of feel that kind of Westeros and Esteros. Was those the two things in Game of Thrones where you had the two continents? These are sort of linked together by some, what is that, an isthmus? Sort of connects them. And this one's a lot more filled out in terms of stuff. Here we have a whole kind of group of mountains. I'm not sure in the middle there, it's like a little bit of a lake or a large or small sea or lake with some kind of island in the middle. We've got a massive swampy delta looking Kind of looks like a delta. And then there's this area here where I can't tell if it's supposed to be filled out. I'm not sure what that is. It's kind of got some more kind of squiggly marks in there. Some more going on. Okay, so here we're going to get the... I'm going to zoom in here to take a closer look. Oops, that... Am I in the right spot? There we go. So we have... Oops. Some cities here. Caraptus, Yalaruam, Minrothad, Skalavak, Darakin, Nankrobab, Glantry, Theatis, SX. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Zodan, Kinidicea or Sinidicea, or maybe Kinidicea or Sinidicea. Karamakos. Karamakos. Everybody knows Karamakos. Akesoli, Selenica, Korunglain, Akoros, Erendi, Nolonolo, Guganix, and Dwirain, and then just says tribal, which doesn't have a designation, a hex designation. So I'm not sure where the tribal ones are supposed to come in. None of the things, I don't know the scale, but it reminds me of Greece. I wouldn't be surprised. It definitely, yeah, Greece would be a good. I definitely would think that you could look at that, especially that first one, almost if you kind of turned it. I could definitely see Greece in there. So we have some tribes: the Ethingar in the south steppe, the Menaki, the Heldan, the Dulasmir, the Malfegi, Atrawagan, the Kusort, the Plirok, the Quastog, the Hagath, and the Kaferon or Saffron. I like the asterisk to say marginally human. All right, because that's kind of interesting here. It says humanoid tribes, but they don't say which humanoids. I kind of wonder what would marginally human mean. Right, so it says Karamakos sounds pretty Greek. Yes, it does, including the double Ks. Yep, no question. I mean, and not that I know anything about Greek, but yes, I could easily see that as being a Greek word. So they split up humanoid tribes from Orcish tribes, which I guess is interesting. And the Orcish tribes, I guess all the tribes don't seem to be limited to areas. So the Ethingar just says south steppes. When we get to the Orcish tribes, we get the Grilth, that just says forests, the Uberg that live in islands, the Vanag in the mountains, and the Cobblekem in the swamp. So maybe they're just scattered about. The humanoid ones seem to be given some little, not a ton of specificity and locations, but a little bit more. So the Ethingar, south steppes. Okay, not the north steppes, the south steppes. But then the Orcish tribes are just, I guess they can be anywhere forests are found, which seems a little bit weird to me, but maybe it's just to be simple. Because I think if you're going to give something a tribe, an organization, that it would be in a particular area. So it wouldn't just be in any forest. Those would just be, I guess, just wood orcs. But I mean, if you want to even have wood orcs, but I'm not gonna say you can't. And then the Grilth would be in a particular forest. So this is a little bit of a different way of doing it, at least that I'm just coming to mind right now. But as we got to remember, we're keeping in mind this wasn't written out and built up for publication. This was just internal use documents. So everything's in kind of a somewhat of a shorthand. We do have some miscellaneous things here. We have the Empire of Sizavi. Capital is at Sklavak. We have the Kingdom of Alasia, which has two capitals. Kingdom of Gorlwyn, the Tentrum Tomb, the Striel, which is a river, the Jorund River. Oh, I see. So Tentrum Tomb is a ruined city and pyramid dungeon. So it's a location of interest. The other two were kingdoms. That was an empire. We have some more rivers. The Jorund River, the Luxt River, the Axonief River, and some other river. The first letter is a little bit too, can't tell what that is. Queda River. The river of Nank Rubab. We have the mountains Altan Tepe or Tep, Radon Tepe or Tep, and then Kovan Tepe or Tep or Teep, I suppose. Lake Amsorak, which is a large inland lake. They don't say where. And then Kanalbarth, which is a forest and forested mountains, northwest east section. Interesting that they have, I mean, I guess maybe just because it's shorthand, but I wonder why not we have these hex numbers and letters you've given us. Why not, put some actual hexes to it, and just instead of just saying northwest, comma, east section, just put so here to there. I don't know, but they didn't. Unless there's another map here. We've seen this before. I don't know if I'll go through them again. We've got, I guess I'll read them out. We have some human languages: Thayatic, Ayasuli, Sizavi, Gwinish, Helden, Plirok, Zoff, Ethingar, Minokian, Ethesti, Glani or Glani, I don't know how it's pronounced, and then Selok or Kelok. And then the non-human languages, we have Goblin, Orcish, Dwarvish, Elvish, Khazinti, Gnome, Barsumian, Mahar, Ogre, and Shoggoth. And then anything not listed there converses in alignment tongues. So they're going to be making good use of alignment tongues because there's a lot that is, even though there's a fair amount covered in those non-human languages, there's still a lot out there. So gonna get your alignment language practice. We get that list again of intelligence and languages. There's a note here about guildsmen interpreters. I'm not sure what that means. Guild plus 2 languages, and a guild master interpreter has guild plus 4 languages. So it's neat to know that you can go to a guild and try to get an interpreter. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know how the guilds, or I don't know if we covered. I mean, I know there was stuff about guilds came up in one of the other sections, but I don't remember the particulars. But it's kind of cool to think that you could, as a hireling, bring along an interpreter. I think I'm going to encounter Khazinti, so let's bring along somebody who speaks Khazinti. I should probably add that into my hireling generator, people whose jobs are basically interpreters. It totally makes sense, especially if you're going to have a lot of different languages, not just all the human ones, because it seems like there is no common, but then also for those creatures. And then we get the prime alignments. They've broken theirs down, which is interesting. So we have the big 3, law, neutrality, and chaos. And then they've subdivided them into, it looks like 6 different versions, different, what would we call that? I'm not sure. Aspects, maybe, is the word. Brian Smith, need an interpreter that speaks wall. Absolutely. Got to have your wall guy. I know a good wall guy. Can't do without a good wall guy. So we have, under law, we've got absolute order, which is parenthetically called high law. We have, that's A, because these are all, so these sub aspects are lettered. We have A, absolute order; B, goodness / harmony; C, justice / vengeance; D, evolution; E, knowledge; F, war. And then neutrality has their own set. Interesting that the last one was crossed out. I guess I will read them both. It's just kind of neat that they changed their mind at somewhere. So the first one for neutrality is preserve the balance. That's high neutrality. Then we have nature, personal power, the 4 elements, which had in a note, parenthetically, elemental, beauty, the arts, and love. And then that was added parenthetically, aesthetic. Then underneath that was originally called pacifism, rejection of the physical. Then that was crossed out, and in parentheses was put war. So that's kind of an interesting, going from pacifism, rejection of the physical, to war. I mean, I wonder if they just felt that if someone took that aspect of neutrality, it just, look, just let's face it. you want to play a hermit that doesn't do anything because they're trying to separate themselves. They're trying to reject the physical world. Well, it doesn't really leave much of an adventuring thing to do in a game that ostensibly has you going out to look for trouble and cause trouble and solve trouble. Maybe that's why they got rid of it. Interesting that they picked war instead. It's not that it's a bad thing, because it's kind of cool that you can be. Because I just looked down I cheated down to look at Chaos, who also has a war aspect. So you can have a war aspect that's all three of them, which I think is fascinating, because you can think of all these different aspects of war and what war can be or what you think it should be and all these things. And you can see, at least I can see, how that would, different aspects of war, different ways of perceiving war could fit in different alignments. So I like that there's that crossover. But I do appreciate that they had a really interesting, that pacifism rejection of the physical really feels, it has as a very interesting, I like the language, I guess maybe is what I'm trying to say. It has a little bit of a floweriness. It really kind of seems to tell you something about that, whereas war is just war. It might have been nice to have a little bit, maybe to tease out some specificity of war that matches up that other ones, just to kind of, okay, so we can see what neutral, someone whose aspect, the war aspect of neutrality, maybe how they differ a bit from the war aspect of law. I mean, I'd actually like to see that for all of them, but it certainly is interesting. And then for chaos, we get absolute randomness, that is high chaos, personal power, war, which is the crossover with the other two, life/fertility, evil/death, and F is the last one is devolution. And we also get we're going to get some details here. So maybe we'll get some more ideas of how these things are all supposed to interact. So for law, we get absolute order, which is parenthetically again, high law. And in parentheses next to us is monks, paladins. I'm guessing this is a reference either to something that they have to have or maybe want to have. Let's read what absolute order entails. Tenets. The only tolerable form of existence is with everything in order and in its place. It is necessary that uniformity be imposed upon the world so that perfect control of all actions can be accomplished, thus eliminating all disruption and discontent. The only tolerable form of existence is with everything in order and in its place. That is interesting, because it's some of that really would read to me, if we go back to, say, the 9-point alignment system, right? I mean, you could see that being something that could apply to lawful evil, lawful good, or even, is there even such a thing as, I guess, lawful neutral? Yeah, I guess there is. It is necessary that uniformity be imposed upon the world so that perfect control of all actions can be accomplished. So it's a really, this is for the control freaks of the world. You got to put it in order, and it's intolerable if things are not in order and in their place. I mean, they're not, they're not hedging there. The Prime Deity is Morilliram, and I like that because it's a palindrome. It's the same forwards and backwards. So Morilliram, because everything's perfectly ordered. I can dig that. AC irrelevant. I like that. So the AC is irrelevant, but they have 300 hit points. I don't know, something kind of funny about that. If AC is irrelevant, which I don't know if that's just supposed to mean like, yeah, you're not hitting them no matter what you try them. What's the hit points for? But Morilliram appears as a huge, blindingly white cube, tetrahedron, octahedron, or similar perfect geometrical object. He cannot be harmed by physical weaponry. All chaotic creatures must flee his presence or be turned to stone, out to 200 feet. Morilliram has little or no interest in dealing with individuals, but this indifference makes him utterly fair. He cannot be insulted or flattered. He will only appear personally in the event of a massive chaotic incursion. He generally prefers to work by granting power to those who can aid his purposes, though this power may be revoked upon completion of the task. Talismans of protection versus various chaotic creatures are his usual rewards. And by the way, he just can move wherever he wants instantaneously, and he has got all the magical and clerical spells. So there you go. Now we get to the goodness/harmony aspect of law. Tenets. Order can be achieved only by all living things working together in harmony and mutual respect. The prime goal is the greatest good of the greatest number. Do unto others, etc. Most creatures have some goodness in them and can eventually be brought into the Great Brotherhood. Regrettably, some are so unregenerately evil and quarrelsome that force must be used to prevent them from damaging others. They are like tumors that must be excised for the health of society. And their prime deity is Cerulia. -4 AC, 300 hit points again. Has all standard. I don't know what standard means. So Morilaram got all magical and clerical spells, but then Cerulia gets standard plus all clerical spells. I don't know what the standard. What is standard in this case? I'm not sure. Anyway, Cerulia appears as a beautiful hermaphrodite dressed in flowing robes or golden ornamental armor. He rides the white Pegasus gelding Wickerwind and often appears accompanied by a half-dozen unicorns. Cerulia is known to some as the physician or the healer, and among the orcs as the leech. One end of his white ash staff heals all wounds and diseases instantly at a touch. The other end causes all wounds received during a lifetime to reopen and all diseases to relapse instantly. That does not sound like fun. Cerulia's paladins can call upon him personally for aid once in their lifetimes. In extremity, there is a 5% chance that any of his priests above 7th level can call for a miracle. Usually he prefers to work more indirectly, granting aid and rewards on a smaller scale. So there's a couple things I like about that. I mean, the descriptions are nice, but I think I like the idea that they basically saying, hey, you can, as a paladin, if you're a paladin of Cerulia, you can call upon them personally for aid once. And I don't know what mechanically we would use for that, where they would just say, look, paladin, you got your one call, you got your lifeline, you got one of them, use it whenever you want, or whether we do a roll. I also like that if you're a high-level priest, there's just a 5% chance that you could get a miracle. So you got, it's not quite the get out of jail free call that the paladins get one of, but it is, you got a chance. You can roll a nat 20 and Cerulia can descend and help you out. We're on to justice and vengeance. Tenets. Good must be rewarded and evil must be punished. All creatures are judged impartially by weighing their good and evil deeds. Transgressors will be punished according to the depth of their depravity. Criminals must be diligently pursued until brought to justice. Examples of law, justice enforcers. Example of law, justice enforcers might include Solomon K. in the Shadow, Mr. A. Javert, Dog the Bounty Hunter, perhaps? He might fit in there. I don't know. Prime Deity is Marley. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know if I'm down with Marley the God. Marley and me, Jacob Marley. Anyhow, I don't want to bring the please, Marley, do not strike me down for my impudent speech. Okay, Marley, -4 armor class, 300 hit points. Standard. I'm not sure what standard is in this case, but sure, standard spells. Plus see past, plus detect truth/lie. Known as the Inquisitor, Marley appears as a man with blazing eyes, wearing a black cowl and robes and wielding an ebony staff that delivers 4 to 40 points of damage in magical shock at a touch. He is always accompanied by the headsman, an 8-foot-tall, heavily muscled man wearing only black trousers and cowl. He is armed with a +5 two-handed vorpal axe. There is a 10% chance that Marley will reward some meritorious avenger with a talisman of protection, usually against reprisals. There is a 5% chance he will send material aid to anyone engaged on a righteous mission of vengeance, 1% if non-lawful. It is said that Marley's spies are everywhere, and that for everyone he has a list of good and evil deeds. He demands respect and punishes those foolish enough to forget it. Brian Smith, yep, Jacob Marley, that's what I'm feeling there. I do like the fact that there's some chance he could just send material aid to anyone on a righteous mission. I wonder, would you roll that once a week? How many chances? Once an adventure that he might just send material aid? Would you wait for there to be some kind of hook? Would somebody have to knowingly call out Marley, help me? And then maybe, like in Hunger Games, you get a little gift package descends from the sky. It's a neat idea, and it's definitely a very much one of those I don't know, religious tropes, right? Going all the way back to the ancient Egyptians, where you're weighing your good and evil deeds when you're trying to hitch a ride on that on Ra's boat to the underworld. Now we get evolution, aka social Darwinism. Uh-oh. I don't know. Oh, no. That one may not age so well, but all right. Well, let's just see what it is. Oh, and I forgot. So justice/vengeance, in parentheses, they call out monks, paladins, and assassins. And then this one calls out monks and assassins. Ryan Smith says, a little note card that says, from Marley with love. Yeah, on your gift. Exactly. Katniss Everdeen, this comes to you from Marley with love. So the tenets of evolution. Evolution is a law of life. All species slowly tend toward the perfect by the weeding out of the unfit. Those better equipped to survive in the jungle or society are the favored of the gods. Those with the ability to exceed and rule others are required by divine law to do so. Those who are on top obviously deserve to be, or they would not be there. All must strive at the expense of their neighbors for the good of the species. Whoosh. I don't know. It's kind of funny. So I don't know that this one. I mean, even at the time, doesn't sound. I mean, I guess it's not good or evil, right? It's law. So that's, first of all, it's not necessarily about being good or evil. It's about law. Certainly, social Darwinism as something that is good or that we would want to do is definitely something that is not. I mean, I think there's still corners of places that are all about social Darwinism still, but I think we can put that in a coffin and bury it. That one's gone, thankfully. Yeah. I mean, look, this was somebody's home game in the 70s. I would probably have to figure out a way to reboot this a little bit. I'm not sure what to do because I get what they're going for, right? And then, evolution's a law of life, but maybe scratching out the stuff about society and things. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that one, really. But remember, it's not necessarily good or evil. It's all about law. And this is from another time. So just have to put this one aside. The Prime Deity for this is Slarskin Obel. -5 armor class, 300 hit points, standard in all magical spells. Slarskin Obel, or Obel, appears as a perfectly formed man in the prime of life. In matriarchies, he appears as a woman. He is strong, dexterous, cunning, inventive, charismatic, artistic, humorous, and skilled in weaponry, far beyond the abilities of any mortal. He is the total entrepreneur, seemingly able to take advantage of any opportunity to advance his worship, even at the expense of the other lawful alignments, but most discreetly. Capitalists and imperialists and mercenaries are his prime worshippers. Somewhat to his mystification, he never seems to make much progress among the rank and file of humanity. Slarskin Obel goes into battle with a +5 weapon of any sort he chooses, striking 4 times per round for a +10 damage. His only reward to the faithful is praise and justification. He secretly covets Marillaram's power. So I will say that they kind of address this a little bit, which is kind of funny. It's like, capitalists and imperialists and mercenaries who usually aren't the kindest, most gentlest people. They're the ones that seem to be his main congregation, and nobody else seems to be on board. And he doesn't really know why. So I kind of like that. This is a little bit of an allusion to the fact that, this isn't going to go well with people outside of certain types. So I do appreciate that. I do like that. He doesn't know why he hasn't been able to make more progress amongst just normal folk. I don't know, Slarskin. Maybe you're not as perfect as you think you are. Now we have the knowledge aspect of law. Tenets. Before true law can be brought to the world, all things must be known and understood. The measurings and methods of science and magic are inherently opposed to the randomness of chaos. Once the possible is known, the impossible is prescribed. Only through the gradual quantification and qualification of the world can chaos be totally expunged. And the prime deity for this is Sejima. AC 0, all magical and clerical spells. Sejima appears as an old white-haired sage. He can answer any question put to him, though he may choose not to. His priest's augury and divination spells will have a better chance of success than usual. 1.5% per level of cleric. Magic users professing his alignment will have a 2% better chance per level with the contact other plane spell, and legend lore is unusually effective for them. Sejima's rewards and punishments are always in the form of information. Otherwise, his participation in human affairs is quite passive, consisting of encouragement and cryptic advice through oracles. He does tend to come down hard on book burners, however. Well, there is that. Let's see, missed some stuff. Yes, yeah. I like that the Darwinist God doesn't help his followers. Yeah, I mean, he is practicing what he preaches. Like, yeah, I'm not helping you. You're doing this for your own good kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And there is a little bit of a I don't know if a commentary, but it's clearly that he's not that the Darwin God is not as strong as Morillaram, which means somehow in his all its supposed perfection, it doesn't have that perfect. Its realm isn't perfect. Its belief isn't perfect. Because if it were, it would encompass everything, and it doesn't. So there's a little bit of you could have a good Star Trek, moment where you could confront what's his name again, Slarskin Obel, with this fact that if he's so perfect and everything's so wonderful, then why is he in Morillaram's shadow? Sejima's a cool deity. I kind of like that. That it'd be good someone to, and I like that they say something which is interesting here. It's not that you have to worship Sejima, and perhaps this goes with all of them. It's like if you take that alignment on, or if you get turned to that alignment, however it works, if you're in that alignment and you are in kind of service or in that deity's domain, whether you are actively worshiping them or not, it's like you're in the knowledge aspect of law. You're part of Sejima's crew, kind of whether you really want to or not. Or here's some good. They have some good reasons why you might want to if you are someone who wants to practice augury or divination, or if you want to do that, contact other plane, and some of that stuff you might want to. But it's kind of interesting that they tie it to. They don't say, oh, if you're a follower of Sejima. They basically just say, here it says, magic users professing his alignment. Like you take that alignment, you're taking Sejima, kind of whether you want to or you don't. Now we have the lawful version of war, the war aspect of law, applying to monks and paladins, parenthetically. I don't know if it's applying or just that, hey, for monks and paladins, I don't really know. Knowledge didn't get any parenthetical class references. And in just cheating ahead, we could see that you could be a neutral paladin, because in parentheses next to the neutrality, the first neutral aspect, we get paladins again. So they're giving a wider breadth to the class options than normal. It's not just a lawful good thing. And I guess this is when this came out, is this pre sort of Dragon Magazine paladin? I don't know. Maybe at the same time. Anywho, to the aspect of war. Tenets, militant law. The simplest and most efficient way to exterminate chaos is by force of arms. Lawful existence will not be safe until chaos is eradicated, and with order and discipline on their side, the lawful forces have an enormous advantage over chaos. The spread of law is much simplified by the use of the direct method. Humanity's cardinal virtue and law's strongest asset is discipline. Their prime deity is Tholtankoma or Tholtanuma. It's Tholtanuma. AC -6, only standard magic, and no psi. I haven't been listing psi. I'm not sure what their version of psionics they're using, but he doesn't have any anyway. This god appears as a giant bearded warrior in full armor of red dragon scales, with dragon's teeth strung around his neck as a bracelet. Would that be a necklace? I don't know. He strikes once per round with the hammer of law for 10 to 100 points of damage. In his presence, all lawful fighters fight at +4, and all chaotics at -4. Only in a rare cataclysmic confrontation between law and chaos will he appear. He usually prefers to send one or more of his paladin bodyguard to aid those he deems worthy. He expends his forces rarely and carefully, however. Decades may go by without seeing one of his bodyguard on Earth. Tholtanuma will often send advice to lawful military commanders in the form of omens or messages only they can see. He may, 5%, reward a mighty deed of lawful valor with a powerful magical weapon or a potion of temporary near invulnerability. He may also, 5%, instill courage in any lawful warrior stricken with fear. The one thing is that I wonder about these percentages, because I think they're great, and I really like that there's chances these guys can interact with you, but I wonder on a practical level, during a game, are you keeping track of all of these? Or do you wait for your player to ask, for example, I've been stricken with fear, can I call upon Tholtanuma? And then you would roll, or would you just roll? Same thing with if you do a mighty deed of lawful valor, as I as a GM have to remember that, oh yeah, Tholtanuma's got a small chance he might send you something, or do I wait for the player to press and say, oh, I've done this mighty lawful deed, so I will sacrifice something, or I will do a I don't know, a big ritual for Tholtanuma, and then maybe he will bless us. I don't know. I mean, I can see that I think it could be good either way. I mean, there are virtues to either of them. I sort of like the idea that you leave it to the players to go, hey, look, these gods are out there. There is a small chance you get some stuff, but you're going to have to kind of get their attention to get that 5%. Whatever, right? But then on the other hand, it's kind of cool as a player if you don't know, if something just kind of happens and you're gifted with something and you're like, oh, wow, it actually came to pass. So I can see both ways. Let me know what you guys would do with that. If you have a lot of these percentages chances that your gods might be active in the world, let me know how you prefer to run them, as kind of player facing with the players being responsible for supplicating for these boons, or whether you like to do it yourself or some combination or something else entirely. We're on to neutrality. High neutrality. Preserve the balance. With a call out to paladins. We have the tenets. The perfect existence can only be achieved by carefully balancing law and chaos in equal parts. Living creatures need both the order of law and the constant change of chaos. Through evolution, all things move toward perfection. Chaos ensures that all the possibilities will be tried, but law ensures that only the best will survive. Law and chaos of themselves are dead ends. Both light and shadow are needed to see. Quote unquote. Their prime deity is Manturin. Manturin, or Manturin, appears as a mighty titan struggling under the weight of an immense balance which he wears as a yoke. From the right pan of the balance, he can throw 15 die lightning bolts, while from the left pan, he can throw bright 8-pointed stars that explode into 10 die fireballs. Yeah, you don't want to mess with that left-handed pan. He can do either or both of these once per round. Both? Jeez. I guess he is a god, after all. If Manturin is called upon for aid, he always carefully considers all the factors before deciding whether or not to help. Uncareful supplicants may find him aiding their enemies. Well, that's not good. His aid often comes in the form of granting warriors javelins of lightning, 20 points, or fireball stars, 15 points. Magic users and clerics may find scrolls or wands of similar value. Those whom he aids may never know who their benefactor was. Manturin prefers to work behind the scenes. Neutral paladinhood is possible in his service to those sufficiently dedicated to the balance. Such paladins may find that Manturin is subtly directing their actions through omens, signs, etc., visible only to themselves. Well, that's good. Maybe that's the only non-lawful paladin we're going to see, because they definitely call that out as, specifically. We will see. Now we're on to neutrality aspect, nature. This one is called out to druids. Tenets. Man is a part of nature and must be fully integrated with the ecology. The cycle of life is the closest thing to perfection on this plane. There is a place and a part to play for each creature. Man, in his arrogance, deems himself above the wheel of nature, and thus causes disharmony within nature and within himself. Only in the give and take of the natural life can man find contentment. Those who ignore this truth and would upset the ecology even further must be prevented from doing so. Death, after all, is just one more turn of the wheel. Wow, this is like Robert Jordan. Some Wheel of Time going on here. But, pre him. The prime deity for this is Rilifloham. Rilifloham appears as a 40-foot treant bearing in his branches fruits and nuts of every kind, and with squirrels, birds, and other small animals living in his leafy crown. He is slow to anger, but implacable once his wrath has been stirred up. His friends have an easy time of it in the wilderness, as all the plants and animals seem to aid them. His enemies, however, will seem to find all the living things of the wild conspiring against them. Rilifloham can strike with his fists for 8 to 80 points of damage, and can summon 3 to 18 treants, as well as any other wild creatures that are around, to his aid. Fire does only normal damage against him. He may, 10%, reward meritorious actions on nature's behalf with a wooden artifact of great power, or the assistance of an animal as a familiar. So definitely good to keep on your good side if you can, and certainly good for druids, and you could have put parenthetically rangers in there as well, if you had rangers. Let's see, Brian Smith says, Manchurin must be at odds with that social Darwinist god. Yes, one would think he would be. He would be, yeah. Oh, well, actually, I think he'd be. I think actually Manchurin might be be against kind of both of them, because the Darwin god's basically all about law, and Manchurin is this one's all about sort of evolution, but with kind of chaos. Whereas I think the social Darwinist god doesn't have any of that. No chaos should abound, because I think the social Darwinist god, right, wants to just kind of squelch any kind of chaos, kind of imperfections, whereas Manchurin's okay with them. But yes, certainly with the nature god, I think they would both have issue. No, nothing says, I never would tell the PCs a chance a god intervenes. My goal, even when a player asks for help, any help that comes is so unclear the players aren't sure if anything actually happened. Yep, I mean, I don't think there's no wrong way to do it. Absolutely. It's really down to kind of how you like to play your game. I kind of think it would be nice, and maybe I'll try to do this. I don't know if I'll end up making it happen in my current game, but maybe the next one is, I think so many times we sort of minimize the active role of gods in that way. Not that there's anything wrong with, say, that none-nothing approach if you don't really know what's going on. But I kind of feel like that's how most games work, and I wouldn't mind having another one where it's more in your face. You know, going back to, say, reading the Iliad, in which the gods are literally walking around, you know, doing something, and have their favorites and have those that they hate. And those they hate are only not smashed because there's a god in their corner. And we really kind of make them more present in some way. It might add too much chaos, and you don't want the game to be about just gods doing stuff and the players kind of sitting around. So you'd have to be, you know, you need to find a balance, but it might be fun for a change. Because I think you end up in this area that gets mined a lot for fantasy games, with either the gods are kind of not around, or they're so subtle that they might as well not be around, or they're dead and someone's going to become the new god. The old gods have been killed, you know, something like that. And I don't need any more old gods need to be killed kind of thing. I'd like to see, hey, what happens if the actual existing gods get to have some fun? Let them have some fun before you kill them off to insert a new god. We now get to the aspect of personal power. Tenets. Personal aggrandizement is the only goal of the followers of this alignment. Law and chaos are irrelevant to the individual, save as a means to an end. Total solipsism, self, is all that matters. The fate of others, even as a consequence of one's own actions, is of no real concern. They are but tools. A person must rely on his own strengths and skills. This is very much your true neutral. It's all about getting over, forget. Doesn't matter how you get over, just get over. Prime Deity is Rasan Korea. Oops. This god appears as a richly appareled man or woman, formally dressed. He fights if he must with a +5 flaming sword that does 5 to 50 points of damage and can shoot fireballs of 10 hit dice value. Worshippers who have contributed enough at his shrines may have a favor done for them, 5% chance. Rasan Korea is whimsical at times, bored or indifferently cruel at others. A supplicant requesting aid in battle may receive the help of a kobold or a cavalry brigade, depending on Rasan's mood. He really only looks with favor upon those who can manage without his help. Why should he do anything for weaklings who can do nothing for him? Rasan Korea lives in a huge stone hall where he presides over a continuous banquet. The guests there continually duel amongst each other for the I think favor or prize. Oops, I went backwards by accident. for the favor or prize of sitting closer to the head of the table. Mortals may be invited to this party as a reward for meritorious service. Rasan is continually scheming to usurp the power of other gods, and several minor forgotten deities have been his victims. That could be a cool, area. You get there and you're at this banquet, and maybe you're up higher at the table than some other people or creatures, or maybe some of these minor forgotten deities, and so they want to duel you to take your seat. Could be fun. It definitely has sort of a fairy vibe to it with that sort of unending banquet. The next tenet of neutrality is the four elements. A basically primitive philosophy, the powers that rule the elements are propitiated in the hope that they will grant favors or at least withhold their wrath. So we're getting this is split into several gods for each element. First we have Earth, Gunger. Gunger is the boss of the Earth elementals. He strikes with his fists for 10 to 100 points of damage. He can summon 1 to 12 Earth elementals to his aid and can cross water with no trouble. Gunger is primarily worshipped by the mining and subterranean peoples. Hara is the queen of the air elementals. She can hit 6 times per round for 3 to 30 points of damage and can summon 1 to 12 air elementals to her aid. Hara cannot be touched by anything launched into the air. Mariners, and the flying races are her most common worshippers. Brian Smith says, sounds like Thanksgiving. Could be. Someone find the green bean casserole. Let's see. Zakrakel is the tyrant of the fire elementals. He hits for 5 to 50 points of fire damage, can throw a 20-die fireball every round, save versus spells for half damage. He can summon 1 to 12 fire elementals to his aid and is not affected by water. It is said that he can spy through any fire. Many hearths have shrines to Zakrakel. And then finally, Shaliri is the king of the water elementals. He hits for 3 to 30 points of damage, and once per round can envelop and instantly drown any creature that does not make it save versus spells. He can summon 1 to 12 water elementals to his aid and is not affected by heat. Mariners, fishermen, and the aquatic races are his primary worshippers. All right, so let's see. I'm coming down to the close of the hour. Let's see what I can get through. I'd like to get through the rest of neutrality, maybe, but we'll see. The next aspect is beauty, the arts, and love. Tenets. Man's highest achievements are in the arts, for only there can he transcend his mortality. The only worthwhile occupation is the creation and appreciation of beauty. Man can make of himself an art form, and appreciation thereof begets love, which refines the senses and further increases our appreciation of all that is beautiful. Anything that must be done may as well be done with style and flair. What you do is not nearly so important as how you do it. The Prime Deity is Demuritis. Demuritis appears as a stunningly beautiful youth who can be either male or female. Beings who annoy him are merely teleported away 1 to 20 hexes in a random direction when he points his finger at them. Once per round, no saving throw. Demuritis can't stand vulgar types in his presence, and may be impressed by charismatic, stylish, smooth-talking types. Though he may not trust them, he will enjoy their company. Extremely charismatic types may even be taken as lovers for an evening. Bards are always a favorite with Demuritis. His gifts include musical instruments and artistic and magical implements of wondrous beauty and power. Well, look at that. So the whole bard lover thing, it's going on back in 76. Demuritis. Next aspect, the last aspect of neutrality, and probably the last thing I will cover today. We have passivism / rejection of the physical, parenthetically, no bards. I guess meaning if you're a bard, you cannot be this one. So this is the one that was crossed out and replaced with war, but here we have at least the original definition and God before it was replaced by war. I wonder if we'll get the war replacement. Who knows? Tenets. The physical world is but a phantasm, as true reality lies within the mind. To reach perfect understanding of the mind, the concerns of the body must gradually be removed until only the inner mind remains. Law and chaos are mere figments. Passive attitude toward the world is cultivated so as not to interfere with mental concentration and in the hope that ignoring physical reality will make it go away. I kind of like that one. Yeah, we're just gonna let's ignore the physical reality. Just hope it's gonna go away. Please go away. Oh, Prime Deity is Fafra. Fafra is a totally non-physical being who never appears on the material plane. His existence can only be shown by deduction. There is no contact whatsoever between Fafra and any being still tied to their material person. Well, there you go. I like the stats. AC, irrelevant. HP, also irrelevant. Move, where? Magic, none. Psi, all. I like it. I cannot see that as being something that you could have as a playable character. I mean, look, I'm all out for it. Maybe I should say I challenge someone. Come up with a PC that actually wants to adventure and do things with a party and yet follows this particular tenet of neutrality. I wonder if that's why they ended up replacing it. I think it's great. I could see it for lots of NPCs, monks of different sorts, philosophers. It's very philosophical. It's very much looking beyond, but those are not adventuring types. They're sitting in bathtubs and they're mummifying themselves while they're alive, kind of thing. They're not. I just can't see them going into dungeons and doing stuff. All right, so we got through. I'm not sure how much. Some of the goodness here in supplement 1. Brian Smith says maybe you're trapped in a warforged body or something, trying to get freed. I guess, but it doesn't seem like you're kind of a spirit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess if that would be one thing, but I mean, I would imagine you could do that for maybe even a single campaign. How do oh my gosh, I follow the tenet of Fafra and I'm stuck in this warforge. And I got to figure out how to get out. But there's still a lot of stuff that you're going to end up. I mean, maybe just as a player, as a GM, I would say, you know what, this is fine, right? Okay. But you're going to be, there's going to be a lot of social stuff, a lot of their politicking and a lot of things like domains that you're just not going to be into because you don't care about any of it. You're closing your eyes, hoping it's all going to go away. So just kind of, you just end up getting locked out of a lot of the game, even if technically you could maybe make a case of why do we need to go clean out the Caves of Chaos as a follower of Fafra. I don't know. Oh, there's a artifact that might be able to help me dismantle my physical form. Maybe, but I just don't. How long do you carry that on before you either got to find what you're looking for? And as a GM, I mean, yeah, you could just keep putting it. Oh, your amulet's in another castle, or you need another piece, the rod of 800 parts. But it seems like you would just be singularly focused, right? And so why would you be going back to town? Why would you even be not trying to just die? If I can just get this warforged, kill them, throw them off a cliff, maybe that'll do it. So taking a lot of working to try to make that happen. But I do appreciate it as an aspect that is fitting for all kinds of people, just maybe not adventurers. But I wonder if the fact that it really feels like a stretch for adventurers, they were like, you know what, let's just replace this with war. And I'd like to see what this neutral, the war aspect or the war aspect of neutrality is like. Maybe they hand wrote it in after all these, or maybe it just never got written. I'm not sure. Brian Smith says, maybe a good concept for a player who knows they'll miss a lot of game sessions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're kind of playing a slightly different game. They'll just keep dying, and the next session they'll be back, in the next one in some kind of other form. You can have fun with that in kind of a comedic sense, but it's kind of tough. Ovaltine Patrol says, the quest to find mathematical proof of your non-existence. Yes, you gotta build the computer that's going to tell you about the computer you need to build. And then you have to get some, you got to get the mice. You're going to transform to a mouse, and then it's going to tell you 42, but it doesn't make total sense. I can see it. It's definitely happening. But it's very fun. I love this stuff on Fafra. Yeah, it's like, AC irrelevant, HP irrelevant. Move where? Oh, that's good. That is really I just find that classic. All right, folks. I gotta jump off of here. We will continue this presumably tomorrow, but my schedule is going to be in flux for a bit until I figure out what kind of my new normals are with the new job and all that, but I'll keep you all informed. Have a great rest of your day, night when you're watching or listening to this. Let me know in the comments if you had any have any feedback on this stuff. I think it's great, but I'd love to know what you guys think of these aspects of these alignments. I really like it because they really give you a lot more concrete sort of detail than you get when even in the 9-point alignment, where everyone's got all these different ways of how it should be, or oh no, the chaotic good is this and not that. Well, this kind of gives you a lot more of a real sense, and I like that that's how they have their gods. That the gods control all these different alignment pie pieces, so to speak. It's pretty cool. But yeah, let me know what you think. Game on, everybody. Hey, Oval Team Patrol, you too. Have a good weekend, or a good weekend. Have a good afternoon, and I'll